The exploration ship Odyssey Dawn drifted silently through the black sea of space. Its mission was simple: explore old ruins of forgotten empires, collect data, and return home with discoveries from the stars. But this time something strange waited for them near a dying red sun. Commander Rian Vale, leader of the crew, stood at the bridge window. The red light painted his face as the ship moved closer to a massive object floating ahead, an ancient fortress half buried in debris. It was huge, like a dark city frozen in space. "Scan complete," said Dr. Mara Ivers, the science officer. "It's not human. No known technology matches its design. The energy readings are weak, but something is still alive in there." Ryan smiled. Alive after 10,000 years? That would be a story to tell. The Odyssey Dawn docked near one of the fortress's open ports. The airlock hissed open and a team of 6 stepped inside. Their lights cut through the darkness. The halls were vast and cold, covered with strange metal symbols that pulsed faintly when touched. "Feels like walking into a tomb," muttered Ensign Hart, the youngest on the team. They moved deeper, until they found a circular chamber filled with ancient machines. At its center stood a transparent crystal pod, tall, glowing faintly blue. Inside it, a woman lay motionless. She looked almost human. Her hair floated like strands of silver, her face calm and perfect, and strange lines of light ran along her skin. Around the base of the crystal, alien writing shimmered, but the translation system could only read a few words. "Eternity Cell 01. Do not break the seal." The crew stared in silence. Dr. Mara whispered, "This isn't a tomb. It's a prison." Rian walked around the pod, inspecting it. "So what did she do to deserve being locked up like this?" "Hard to say," Mara replied. "She could be a criminal, or something even worse." The team set up scanners. They tried to decode the alien technology, but the system was too complex. All they could confirm was that the pod's power source was still active, faint but stable. Hours passed as the scientists worked. To ease the tension, the crew started joking around. "Maybe she's an alien princess," Hart said, grinning, "waiting for her true love to kiss her awake. Or maybe she'll bite your head off," another crewman laughed. Rian smirked. "A sleeping beauty in space. What could go wrong?" The team chuckled. The air was heavy, but humor helped them breathe again. Ryan, always one to lighten the mood, walked up to the crystal and said, "Well, if she's been asleep this long, maybe she deserves a welcome. Commander." "Don't you dare," Mara warned, half laughing, half serious. But Ryan leaned in with a playful grin. "For science," he said, and tapped his lips softly against the crystal surface. Everyone laughed, until the laughter died in an instant. The chamber lights flickered. A low hum vibrated through the floor. The crystal glowed brighter and brighter until the crew had to shield their eyes. The pod cracked with a sharp sound while like glass under pressure. "Power surge." "Back away," Mara shouted. Rian stumbled back as the crystal shattered into 1,000 shining pieces that floated in the air like sparks. The woman's body began to rise, her eyes still closed. Then they opened, glowing like twin stars. Every machine in the room came alive. Symbols flared across the walls. A cold wind rushed through the chamber even though there was no air movement. The woman's voice echoed, not from her lips but directly in their minds. "Who has broken the chains?" No one moved. The sound carried both beauty and danger. Rian raised his hand slowly. "We didn't mean harm. We found you." Her gaze turned toward him. For a moment he felt as if she looked through his soul, seeing every thought, every memory. Then she spoke again, her voice calm but heavy with meaning. "You touched the seal. Now you share my sentence." Ryan's body went cold. Before he could speak, a wave of energy surged through him. He saw visions, cities burning, stars collapsing, shadows consuming the sky. He felt pain, anger, and sorrow that wasn't his own. When he gasped and fell to his knees, the visions ended. The woman, the ancient prisoner, stood on the floor now, breathing softly. The cracks of her broken prison floated around her like glowing dust. The crew raised their weapons. "Commander, stay back!" Hart shouted. "Don't shoot," Ryan said weakly, holding up a hand. "She's connected to me. I can feel her." The woman turned to them. "Fear not. Your weapons cannot harm me, nor do I wish to harm you. My name is Sarai of the Void Court. Once I commanded legions across the stars. Now I am only what remains." Mara took a cautious step forward. "The Void Court? That's a myth from pre-human archives." Sarai's expression darkened. My kind ruled before your species learned to walk beneath the stars. But even gods fall. I was punished for creating what should never have existed, a weapon that could consume suns. My punishment was to sleep until the end of time. Ryan's voice trembled. Then why am I part of your sentence? You broke the seal with a gesture of life, she said softly. The prison's curse saw it as a bond. Our fates are now one. If I perish, so will you. If you suffer, I feel it too. The crew exchanged worried looks. The room's temperature began to drop. The air shimmered with static energy. Suddenly, the fortress itself started to awaken. Doors opening, lights flashing along ancient corridors. Commander, the entire structure is powering up, Mara shouted. Something's overriding our systems. Sarai's eyes glowed again. The prison is alive. It knows I am free. Ryan steadied himself, trying to ignore the dizziness spreading through his head. Can you stop it? She shook her head slowly. No, the fortress was made to ensure I never escaped. It will destroy everything nearby to keep me contained. Then we have to get out of here, Hart said, grabbing Ryan's arm. But Sarai raised her hand, and the door slammed shut. It is too late. The system has already begun to awaken. Every weapon, every defense, every shadow of my past will rise again. Ryan stared at her. Then help us stop it. She looked at him, truly looked at him, and for a moment her expression softened. You are human. I have seen your kind in the memories of dying worlds. Fragile, yet stubborn. Call it stubbornness, Ryan said, breathing heavily. But if we're linked now, then we're both in danger. So either you help me, or we both burn. For a moment, silence filled the chamber. Then Sarai gave a faint, almost amused smile. Very well, Commander Vale. Let us see if humanity's will can stand against eternity. Outside, the fortress groaned and began to move. Massive engines long dead for ages flickered to life. The Odyssey Dawn, still docked nearby, shook under the sudden gravitational pull. Inside the chamber, lights formed strange runes across the floor. Ryan felt the weight of countless voices whispering inside his mind, ancient, angry, and waiting. Sarai turned toward the glowing wall. The first locks are opening. Once they are gone, the weapons of the void will awaken. Ryan clenched his fists. Then we stop them. Together. Her eyes glimmered faintly with light. Together, then. The fortress's deep hum grew louder, echoing through the metal corridors like the heartbeat of something ancient and alive. The crew looked out into the darkness beyond the broken crystal, realizing they had not discovered a relic, but unleashed something far greater, a sleeping war that had waited for a fool's kiss to begin again. And as Sarai's voice whispered in Rian's thoughts, one sentence echoed like a promise and a curse. Now you share my sentence. The ancient fortress drifted toward the dying red sun like a wounded beast awakening from a long nightmare. Inside, alarms echoed through the endless halls and red lights pulsed on every wall. The Odyssey Dawn shook violently as the structure's gravity fields came alive again. Commander Ryan Vale stood beside Sarai, the ancient prisoner he had accidentally freed. Around them, the crew worked in panic as systems on the ship flickered. Engines are failing, shouted Ensign Hart. Something's overriding our controls. It's like the fortress is eating our power. Dr. Mara Ivers typed furiously on her console. Commander, the fortress's core is recharging. If it reaches full power, it could destroy everything in this system. Sarai looked calm, though her glowing eyes reflected the chaos around them. The fortress was my cage. Its heart is tied to me. When I woke, it woke as well. It does not understand peace, only containment. Ryan turned to her. Then help us stop it, she met his gaze. You cannot stop what was built by the Void Court, but perhaps we can change its purpose. A shared mind as Sarai spoke. Rian suddenly felt pain behind his eyes. Visions flashed again. Vast cities floating in the sky, fleets of ships burning, golden towers collapsing into fire. He saw Sarai standing at the center of it all, surrounded by shadows shaped like humans but made of light. Her voice filled his thoughts. Do you see now what I was? He saw her commanding armies, her power enough to crush worlds. Yet her expression in those visions was full of sorrow, not pride. When the visions faded, Ryan gasped for air. You were used, he said quietly. Sarai nodded. Yes, my creators built me to protect them, but they used me as a weapon. When I refused to continue their wars, they called me traitor. They sealed me here so I could never choose again. Mara stepped closer, her voice soft. And the sentence? Sarai looked at Rian. To share the pain I caused. For eternity. The fortress awakens, the floor rumbled again. From the dark halls, giant metal guardians began to rise. Drones shaped like warriors of light and steel. Their glowing eyes fixed on the humans, weapons ready. Hart raised his blaster. They're coming! Hold fire, Rian ordered. Sarai, can you control them? I can try, she said, closing her eyes. Energy flowed from her hands, reaching out like threads of light across the walls. The drones froze mid-step, trembling as if uncertain. Sparks danced between them, and for a moment the room was silent. Then one drone broke free and charged forward. Rian fired, hitting its shoulder. The explosion threw him backward, smoke filling the air. Mara pulled him up, coughing. Forget control, Mara shouted. We need to reach the core. Sarai opened her eyes. Follow me. The core is deep within the fortress. But you must move quickly, and every moment the system grows stronger. Journey through the fortress. The crew moved through dim corridors that twisted like veins. Strange symbols glowed faintly on the walls, lighting their path. Sarai walked ahead, her steps silent. Sometimes she would stop and press her hand to the metal, whispering in a forgotten language. Each time, doors opened and systems powered down just long enough for them to pass. Hart whispered to Mara, Do you trust her? Mara shook her head slightly. No, but we don't have another choice. As they reached the core chamber, they saw it. A massive sphere of golden energy pulsing at the center of the room, suspended in mid-air by beams of light. Around it floated dozens of drones, guarding it like priests before a god. Sarai stepped forward. This is the heart of the fortress. It keeps the curse alive. And now it is trying to restore what was lost. Rian frowned. Restore what? The void weapon, she said quietly. A storm that can burn stars. Mara stared in disbelief. That's impossible. Sarai looked at her sadly. It is already happening. The human choice. The air shook as the drones turned toward them. Sarai raised her hands, trying to stop them, but the connection faltered. Her voice trembled. The link is failing. The fortress sees me as corrupted. It will destroy us all. Ryan's communicator buzzed. Commander! A voice from the Odyssey Dawn shouted. The fortress is pulling us in. If we don't break free soon, we'll crash. Ryan clenched his fists. If we shut down the core, will it stop? Sarai hesitated. Yes, but the bond between us is tied to it. If the core dies, so will I. And since we share the sentence, Ryan finished her words softly. Then I die too. Mara stepped forward. Commander, there must be another way. Ryan stared at the glowing sphere. Maybe there is. He looked at Sarai. You said this place was built to contain, not to destroy. What if we make it something else? What if we make it remember mercy? Sarai blinked, confused. Mercy? Ryan nodded. You said you were punished for refusing to destroy. Maybe that was the right choice. Maybe this fortress can learn from that. Sarai stared at him for a long moment. Then slowly she smiled. You humans, always defying the impossible. Rewriting the sentence, Ryan and Sarai stepped toward the core. She placed her hands on the glowing sphere, and he placed his over hers. The light spread between them, bright, warm, and heavy with energy. Ryan felt the fortress's voice inside his mind, cold, ancient, and full of judgment. Prisoner Sarai of the Void. You are not allowed release. Sarai's voice was calm. Not release, change, Ryan shouted. You hear me, machine? Humanity doesn't believe in eternal punishment. We believe in second chances. The core pulsed. The fortress's voice grew louder. Sentence shared. Sentence unbroken. Ryan clenched his teeth. Then break it with me. The floor trembled. Light surged from the sphere, surrounding both of them. Mara and Hart watched in awe as the fortress's walls began to shift, the dark metal turning silver, the red alarms fading into calm blue light. Sarai's eyes glowed brighter. It's listening, she whispered. It's changing. The drones froze in place. One by one, they powered down, falling silently to the ground. But the energy was too much. The core overloaded, lightning arcing through the chamber. The Odyssey Dawn's voice screamed through the comms. Energy spike! Commander, the fortress is going critical. Sarai turned to Rian. You must go. If you stay, you will die. Rian shook his head. I told you, we're linked. I'm not leaving. For the first time, she looked afraid. Why? You owe me nothing. Ryan smiled faintly. Because that's what humans do. We don't abandon people. even ancient prisoners who nearly ended the stars. For a long moment, Sarai simply looked at him. Then she placed her hand over his heart. Then let this be my final gift. The end and the beginning, a wave of light burst from the core, spreading across the fortress like dawn, breaking after endless night. The engines shut down, the weapons melted into nothing, and the red sun outside grew brighter, reflecting on the fortress's new silver surface. The Odyssey Dawn was pushed safely away by a burst of energy. The crew on board watched as the fortress stabilized, no longer a weapon, but a beacon shining across the void. Inside the chamber, Ryan collapsed, breathing weakly. Sarai knelt beside him, her form flickering with fading light. "It's over," he whispered. She smiled softly. "You changed it. You changed me." "The curse is gone," he looked at her, eyes heavy. "Then we both live?" She shook her head gently. "No. Only one may remain free." Before he could protest, she placed her glowing hand on his chest. The light passed from her into him, filling his body with warmth. "Wait, Sarai, don't—" Her voice was soft, almost a whisper. "You taught me what mercy feels like. Now carry it for both of us." Her body dissolved into light, scattering like dust in sunlight. The glowing fragments drifted into the core and vanished. Epilogue: days later, the Odyssey Dawn floated near the silent fortress. The structure was calm, its light shining like a small star against the black sky. Ryan stood at the window, staring at it. He could still hear her voice sometimes, gentle, distant, like a memory carried by the stars. Mara stepped beside him. "You should rest, Commander," he smiled faintly. "Maybe later." She looked out with him. "What do we call it now?" "It's not a prison anymore." Ryan thought for a moment. "Call it the Beacon of Sarai." As the ship turned toward home, the fortress glowed softly, its light spreading across the darkness, not as a warning, but as a promise. A reminder that even in the vast cold of space, humanity's courage and kindness can turn punishment into peace.